to Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, a series of digital-first conversations that we do here every Friday live, where we invite you, the entrepreneur, to log in and ask questions to our panel of experts who are the sharpest expert minds across the country on a whole host of topics. We then bring you this series of conversations as a two-part for you to be able to really listen and enjoy some of those conversations that we're having on the Masterclass series. Today, part 1, talking about the super highway to $5 trillion. I'm in conversation with someone who needs no introduction. Niranjan Hiranandani is calling out the big events and the big trends that he feels is going to impact you, the entrepreneur, in the mid to short term as we're counting down to that big headline of the $5 trillion economy. So good having you with us here, sir, today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Happy to be with you, Sananda, as always.
I want to kick off today's masterclass by really calling out some of the big trends and events that we've seen here in India as far as trends are concerned and as far as events are concerned for small businesses. And the first trend that I would love to discuss with you, and you, of course, you're so closely involved with what is happening in the entrepreneurial space, even as you have the bird's eye view, of course, of what's happening across the macro economy, and that's as far as the pandemic is concerned. COVID forcing disruption in everything that we do in a way that nothing else possibly could have. But specifically, if you could talk about perhaps the top 1 or 2 things that COVID has impacted here for the life of an entrepreneur, for someone who has a job today in India Inc., what would that be?
Sunanda, I think trends, changes are a part of life. And all throughout the decades, changes do take place. But today, the pandemic change has certainly precipitated multiple changes and trends in the economy and in the overall situation. The first and foremost trend that we do see definitely is the trend for the purposes of focusing on health and hygiene. I think that's the biggest trend of all. The care requirement which health and hygiene is requiring for the country as a whole has certainly been focused upon, whether it is the vaccination drive, whether it is the availability of oxygen, whether it is going to be availability of doctors, medical help at the lowest level in the villages or otherwise. I think that's the first major trend taking place. The second major trend which the pandemic has brought about is the work from home. And I think that trend is so drastic that it's still not settled down. I run 14 colleges and 6 schools in the Mumbai region. I've just been able to get the teachers and the students back to the classroom. And my God, it is so difficult. In the last 1 week, I got 14 teachers resigning because they can't handle the classroom. The work from home, study from home, that type of activity has seen a different change. But the reverse is also true, which is that people are more comfortable to work at home. And there are many sectors of the economy, including IT, including education, including services, including e-commerce, which have actually grown and precipitated because of the work from home thing. In the real estate sector, have also benefited because people are wanting bigger houses, better houses, because they want more facilities in their neighborhood. They want something to be able to be comfortable in the situation. And the number of upgrades in terms of 1 bedroom moving to 2 bedroom, 2 bedroom moving to 3 bedroom, of course, those who can afford it have really been able to do. The beneficiary has been the women, many of them who had babies, who wanted to look after the children and still keep up their jobs for them. It really helped as far as that is concerned. So we do see the work from home trend which has taken place is a second trend. So health, hygiene, number one, working from home, number two. Third one was the e-commerce and the technology change which has taken place.
I just want to go back to that very interesting point you made about how more and more people are perhaps preferring to work from home. And I was looking at a tweet that you've put out recently where you've spoken about this trend, live anywhere, work anywhere. And as a trend that you want to perhaps call out for our entrepreneurs who are watching today, what's it going to mean, this hybrid working model for leaders of businesses who are perhaps looking at opening up, who perhaps opened up but are still looking at this flexi working? What's the model really going to look like? What could you tell us?
One of the biggest changes which are taking place, Ananda, is the fact that you will be able to recruit, hire and outsource people anywhere in the world. Not merely in the outskirts of the city. You can go and recruit a person in tier 2, tier 3 cities. You can recruit somebody there. So this whole thing which has happened in the last 2 years gives entrepreneur an avenue to get into an aspect where outsourcing people is easy. You don't need an office. You can work from home. You can work out through the technology background. You can use the platforms in terms of payment and other exchanges. All these aspects are really going to work in different. People can make content for the purposes of various things, and that content creation can be done anywhere in the world, not in the city, not in the family. So I do see lots of these changes taking place.
Sure. We've got our first question coming in from our audience. This question coming to us from Preeti Rajkumar saying, Mr. Hiranandani speaking about housing and housing really becoming more, perhaps quality housing becoming more in focus. What about tier 3 and tier 4 quality affordable housing outside of metros? Is that a market perhaps that you personally would look at, but also from the real estate industry itself? How would you like to answer Preeti Niranjan as an opportunity, as a business trend perhaps? Anything you'd like to tell her?
Okay, Preeti, the good news is that tier 2, tier 3 cities have had a huge boom. I've been talking to HDFC and various other housing finance companies, and they've said they have seen a super exponential growth in these cities in terms of housing loans and advances which are given. Automatically, this indicates that there is more and more sales taking place in tier 2 and tier 3 towns, and also the extended cities. So the peripherals of Mumbai, peripherals of Virar, Vasai, Navi Mumbai, Panvel, Thane, all the peripherals are also having excellent sales. So yes, the tier 2, tier 3 cities are definitely winning. Second, the Prime Minister's Awaaz Yojana gives a subsidy to the extent of 3% for 15 years for house buys which are below 45 lakhs. And that is obviously more available in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And the benefit is huge. The government of India has already spent 80,000 crores as subsidy. I'm sorry, the last 20,000 crores will be done this year, which means around 60,000 crores is already spent by government of India in the last 6 years. And they are continuing to spend another 48,000 crores, out of which 20,000 crores will go into urban areas. So yes, the tier 2, tier 3 cities are also growing, but it does not mean that the cities are not growing. The cities are also growing.
Okay, so one event that I must discuss that will definitely have an impact in the short term and is unfolding as we speak is what's happening with Russia and Ukraine, and the impact it therefore has as far as crude prices are concerned. And I will talk about inflation, etc. in the next couple of questions. But first and foremost, the headline as far as oil prices are concerned, crude prices jumping nearly 48% as we speak versus a year ago. How are you expecting that will pan out in the mid to short term, even as what is happening right now is going to continue to unfold?
Scary. Sunanda, it's a very, very difficult question, and the answers are even more difficult. One thing is there that finance minister had pegged all her calculations based on the oil prices around $70, and this is now shooting beyond $100, so to say, at least in the short run. Now, if this war continues and the issues sanctions do come up in terms of Russia, Ukraine, and others, I don't know how this whole thing is going to pan out, especially when sanctions are already there against Iran and one other country, I don't remember the name, and that will keep the high prices high. But I do believe that better sense will prevail so that the world economy comes back to the other side. Russia is certainly not in a hurry because they have a huge foreign exchange surplus. They also have oil resources which they export to China and to other countries in Europe and the rest of the world. So I think we are definitely going to be negatively affected. The stock markets have already indicated that trend going downwards. So we will be affected somehow or the other. My hope and prayer is that it doesn't carry on for too long, affecting our thing, and our foreign exchange balances, which is huge and surplus at the present time, will get affected, and our costs of production, mobility, and others will definitely get affected. But one advantage would be that immediately the conversion into using methanol and others for the purposes of methanol to be mixed with petrol, as well as converting more into e-mobility, will certainly be speeded up in the short run. In the long run, definitely, but even in the short run, there will be more pressure on the government and the industry to make these changes to take place.
I'm going to slip in a short break on that note. Back in just a moment. Welcome back. You with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. Tonight, we're having a conversation as far as the $5 trillion economy is concerned here in India. What's it going to take, and what are the events and what are the trends that are going to impact the life of you, the entrepreneur, as we're counting down to that big headline. In keeping with then the theme that we're discussing today on the masterclass, superway and highway to $5 trillion, I do want to discuss trade deficit. The headline, of course, is that India's trade deficit could soon double to $200 billion. My question is the impact that that's going to have on the economy in the mid to short term. For someone watching this interview, if you could call it out as India's largest player in this space, how are you really viewing that?
See, I'll tell you, the budget of India, this last budget, 2022, was a forward-looking investment budget into infrastructure and development. I've never seen something where the incremental amounts have been used for the purposes of development in as extensive a way as the finance minister has desired to do. Roads, railways, various other infrastructure projects, housing, all these things have been divided, ports. So all these put together is going to create a multiplier positive effect. So you will be able to achieve a 10% GDP growth, the double-digit GDP growth by the end of the year. Subject to, of course, inflation relating to oil. But I think the opportunity is huge. And if they combine the growth of infrastructure, another aspect which I will like to touch after this question would be technology. So infrastructure, I think, is the biggest boost as far as India is concerned.
Sure. So what I'm quickly going to do, a lot of questions coming in from our audience, not surprisingly. I want to take the first question. There are 3 questions that I have. I'm going to take the first question and then take our first Paul. This first question coming to us from Santosh Vaswani of Mercadio. I hope I've got the pronunciation right. He says he's a journalist, a content writer, and an editor. He says, I would like to ask if it's possible for big giants like Mr. Hiranandani to manufacture human eye robots or robotic dustbins, which can be deployed on the roads of India and sweep the roads. Cleanliness, sanitation, etc. I do know that the economy is something that you're very passionate about, and really the footprint and the impact that we have on our environment. So it's over to you, Mr. Hiranandan.
Yes, sustainability, cleanliness, safety, health, and hygiene. You come to our complexes, whether it's in Powai, whether it's in Thane, whether it's in Panvel, we do recycling of water. We have platinum rated green buildings which are there in our complexes. All these go to create cities of sustainability, energy saving, and all those aspects of it are definitely going to be a prime concern, not only of me, but lots and lots of people like me. I think the focus on greening in terms of plantation of trees on highways, on roads, within complexes is definitely a trend which I am seeing and will continue to do. On the industry side, we are going to see a lot of greening in terms of using electric power, in terms of sustainability, and you see the conversion of cars, buses, and other vehicles, including railway lines, locomotives, all going electric. So you will see sustainability and cleanliness and aspect to do, which is there. Cities are now competing in order to recycle waste. The Supreme Court of India has directed a city of Mumbai to actually recycle the water which is sent into the sea, and they have mandated that this should be done ASAP. But the best part, Sudhanda, is in our country we get concerned but we don't act. But this is one of those times where action has been initiated both by private individuals, city, state and government. And I'm sure that in a short period of time, this will be a trend and the next generation will see a new India.
I want to take our first poll question. This is for all of you who've logged in for today's masterclass. Even as we've heard from Mr. Hiranandani, we would love to hear from you as well. And our poll, which is coming up on your screens as we speak, do you think the Indian economy can achieve its $5 trillion dream by 2024? Yes or no? Do send us your comments and we will have the response coming to us in just a moment. Let me take the second question, which is coming to us from Madhu at Swajot Technologies. He says, Mr. Hiranandani, would all these changes in work life that you're talking about lead to an actual decongestion of our metros?
Yes and no. The metros have a natural growth centers which have been historically done, and they will continue to grow. One of the things which Government of India decided about 7-8 years ago was that the country is going to become increasingly urbanized. So in the next 10 years, you will see at least a 10% swing from the rural to urban areas. And the GDP growth can only come up if we are urbanized more and more. Hence, the expenditure on infrastructure, on roads, metros, cleanliness, all these aspects of it are, being encouraged because the city centers and focus. The entire China growth of GDP took place because of that also, and hence increased urbanization. Because employment in the villages cannot be expanded beyond a point, and they are all underemployed in the rural areas. So the answer is it's going to be increasingly done. But yes, increasing urbanization 100% is happening and will continue to happen. And that's the only way you can achieve the $5 trillion economy. If you continue to try and invest only in the villages, you're not going to get the GDP growth which we need. So hence, the trend will continue.
Our results coming in, we had asked you, do you think the Indian economy can achieve its $5 trillion dream by 2024? An overwhelming percentage of you have said yes. 84% are saying yes. 16% are saying no. That was part one of this conversation. We're going to bring you part two. Do stay tuned for that. Here's a quick sneak peek, in fact, of what Niranjan, Hiran and Dan had to say on the $5 trillion economy and its impact for entrepreneurs.
You have Narega in the rural areas. We need a similar type of program to be done for the urban poor. MSMEs do need much more than just additional credit from RBI and the government of India in terms of a guaranteed credit. If you push the overall economy up, then these sectors can come back quicker.
For more information on what else we're going to be discussing here on the Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass series, do head on over to our website. Also for feedback on this masterclass, that number you see on your screen, that's how you reach us. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.